Hello and welcome to English Spark Official. I'm Zayden, joined as always by Alara.
Hey everyone! We're so excited about today's topic.
Learning a new language can just feel incredibly frustrating sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's really tough.
Yeah, and I want you to imagine the scenario. You spend years studying, all right? You put in the hours.
Right, doing all the flashcards and everything.
Exactly. And you learn every single word to a famous song. You memorize the lyrics perfectly, exactly what every single word means.
You're fully prepared, or so you think.
Right. But then when you finally stand up on stage to sing it, you sing all those perfect words to the completely wrong tune.
Oh, yeah. That happens a lot.
And the audience, they hear the words, they understand the vocabulary you're saying, but the music is it's missing.
Yeah, the melody is gone.
Exactly. And because the music is missing, the whole song just sounds wrong. It feels really uncomfortable to listen to, honestly.
That is exactly what it feels like for so many language learners. I mean, it's a perfect analogy. You have the vocabulary, but you just do not have the melody. And in spoken language, that melody is really everything. It is what, connects the words together and gives them actual human feeling.
And that missing music is exactly what we are exploring today in this deep dive. We are looking at a highly specific, super fascinating learning blueprint from a channel called English Spark Official.
Yeah, their stuff is super interesting.
It really is. And their entire focus is on something called pitch and stress.
Right.
Which, we are keeping it very simple today, just like the program does. So pitch is basically how high or low your voice goes.
Like notes on a piano, yeah.
Exactly, like piano notes. And stress is just which part of a word you say the loudest and the strongest.
Right, where you put your energy.
Yes. And this program has created this whole system to help people sound like natural native English speakers, specifically for learners who already know some English.
Like that A2 to B2 level.
Exactly. People who know the words, but who still feel like they are singing the wrong tune,
Yeah, right. And what makes this blueprint so interesting is how they actually go about teaching this melody, because it's not normal.
No, it's really not.
We're going to look at their completely unique rules for learning, because they have like a deep hatred for traditional textbooks.
Oh, they despise them.
Yeah.
We will definitely get into that.
Yeah, and they use very specific mental tricks to force your brain to learn naturally. Plus, they have completely redesigned the way a lesson actually flows.
Which is wild. And, because this program is all about making things simple and easy to understand, we are going to follow their most important rule today, too.
Oh, definitely.
We are not going to use complicated academic jargon. We're going to use simple, clear words.
No big confusing terms today.
Right, because we want to make sure you can focus entirely on these ideas rather than, stressing out over difficult vocabulary. So, to start, we have to look at the biggest enemy of natural speech, according to this blueprint.
The enemy.
Yeah, the textbook. English Spark insists that learning must be a natural, human-like conversation. They completely forbid anything that sounds robotic or, textbook style.
They are very, very strict about this. And to understand why they hate textbooks so much, we kind of have to look at how humans actually process information.
Okay, let's break that down.
So think about what a textbook is, right? It is entirely visual. You look at it, you read it with your eyes.
Right, it's just paper.
Exactly. The words just sit there flat on the paper in black and white. But pitch and stress, that music of the language we talked about, those are strictly auditory.
Oh, I see. You can't see music.
No, you cannot see them. You can only hear them with your ears.
That is such a simple but really profound point. When I look at a page in a book, the letters do not jump up and down to show me the high and low pitch.
They definitely don't.
Right, and they do not get bigger or louder to show me the stress. So if I spend all my time studying from a silent book, my voice is probably going to sound completely flat too.
Naturally, yeah.
I will just sound like a machine reading data.
Exactly. When you read silently, your brain is really only doing one job. It is processing meaning.
Just the definition.
Right. It is connecting a word on the page to a concept in your head, and it is completely ignoring the sound.
Wow.
Now, think about learners who actually live in an English-speaking country, because this program is heavily targeted at them.
Right, people who are fully immersed.
Exactly. These are people who go to the grocery store, they take the bus, they go to work, and they hear native pitch and stress every single day all around them.
The music is everywhere.
Yeah.
Literally everywhere they go.
Yes. And here's the crazy part. they still struggle to sound natural.
Which is wild, right? You would think just being surrounded by the music would be enough to learn it, just by being there.
You would absolutely think so.
Mhm.
But here's what often happens, according to the source. They spend all day hearing natural English, but they feel like they are not improving fast enough.
Right, they get frustrated.
Yeah. So they decide they need to study. And what do when they want to study?
Oh, I bet I know.
They go home, they shut their door, they turn off the human voices, and they open a silent textbook.
Oh, man. They revert right back to reading flat words with their eyes.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. So they are literally hiding from the music to go look at the lyrics again.
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing.
They go back to robot training
Mm.
because it feels safe, I guess. It feels like real studying.
It feels like progress because you can measure it. You can sit there and say, hey, I learned 20 new words today.
Right. I did a good job.
But the English Spark program recognizes that this is a complete trap. You cannot learn a physical auditory sound from a visual book.
You just can't.
No. You can only learn how humans speak by actually listening to humans speak. And that is why the blueprint demands a modern, casual, friendly tone in all their materials. They want the learning to sound exactly like a chat at a coffee shop.
I hear that, and I like the coffee shop vibe, but I have a major concern here.
Okay, what is it?
What are the rules of the language?
Hmm.
Because, textbooks are great at giving you perfect grammar.
That is true. They are.
If we just throw the textbook in the trash and rely only on casual conversation, aren't we setting people up to speak with terrible, broken grammar? I mean, people are terrified of making mistakes and sounding foolish.
That is easily the most common fear learners have. And honestly, it is completely understandable. We are taught in school that grammar is a test. And if you fail the test, you were just wrong.
Exactly. You get a big red X on your paper.
Right. But let's look at how this plays out in the real world. Imagine someone uses completely perfect, advanced textbook grammar. They build this huge, complex sentence.
Like perfect grammar.
But because they learned it from a book, they say it like a robot. Their voice is completely flat, and the stress is on all the wrong syllables.
All right, so instead of saying photograph, they say photograph.
Exactly. To a native speaker listening to them, that perfect grammar will actually sound wrong.
Really? Even if the words are perfect?
Yes. Because the native speaker's brain is expecting a certain melody. When the melody is broken, their ears get confused. They might not even understand the person, even though the grammar on paper was 100% perfect.
The communication just fails.
It fails completely.
Man, that is incredibly frustrating. You do all the hard work to get the grammar right, and people still look at you with a confused face.
It happens all the time. Now picture the exact opposite scenario. Imagine a learner who uses very simple grammar. Maybe they even make a small mistake with a verb.
Okay, so imperfect grammar.
Right. But they say it with perfect pitch. Their voice goes up and down in all the right places. They stress the correct parts of the words. The melody is spot on.
Right.
To a native ear, that person sounds incredibly natural. They sound fluent. The native speaker understands them instantly, and the conversation just keeps flowing.
Because the music is familiar.
Exactly.
The native speaker's brain relaxes because it recognizes the tune. That is a huge realization. I mean, you can have the best lyrics in the world, but if the tune is bad, no one wants to listen to the song.
Nobody.
Okay, so if we are throwing out the textbooks and we're not obsessing over perfect grammar rules, what are we actually doing? How do we build a program that actually teaches this music?
That brings us to one of the strictest rules in the entire English Spark blueprint. It is about how they choose their vocabulary.
Okay.
They call it the stepping stone rule.
Stepping stones, like walking across a river. You have to take it one easy step at a time.
Yes, exactly like that. They demand that you start with very simple words. You only gradually increase the difficulty.
Keep it simple.
And if a teacher uses a slightly difficult word, they are forced to explain it naturally right there in the conversation using simple language.
Oh no, looking it up in a dictionary later.
No. And there is a hard limit. Complex academic words, basically anything beyond that B2 level of everyday fluency, are completely forbidden in the program.
Forbidden. They literally ban big words.
They ban them.
That is so counterintuitive. I mean, usually when people learn a language, their ultimate goal is to learn the biggest, fanciest words possible.
Oh, yeah, everyone wants a massive vocabulary.
Right. They think that using academic words will make them sound smart and fluent. Why does this program ban them? Why is simplicity so crucial for learning pitch and stress?
It all comes down to brain energy. The scientific term is cognitive load, but we can just think of it as your brain's battery power.
Okay, brain battery. I like that.
Imagine your brain has a battery that is currently at 100%. If someone speaks to you and uses a massive, complicated academic word that you have rarely heard before,
Which happens a lot.
right, your brain has to work incredibly hard just to process it. You were trying to remember the definition, you were trying to translate it in your head, you're trying to figure out how it fits into the sentence.
I know exactly what you mean. When I
Right.
hear a huge word in another language, I just freeze. The person keeps talking, but I am still stuck 5 seconds in the past, searching my mental dictionary to figure out what that one word meant. My brain is working at full capacity just on the translation.
Yes, your brain is using 100% of its battery power just to understand what the word means.
Right.
And because of that, you have 0% battery power left to notice how the word sounds. You completely miss the pitch.
Oh, wow.
You do not notice where the speaker put the stress. The entire melody of the sentence goes right past you because your brain was too busy translating the lyric.
Ah, I see. But if the teacher deliberately uses simple words like words that I already know and I'm totally comfortable with,
And the translation is instant. Your brain only needs to use, say, 10% of its battery power to understand the meaning.
because it's easy.
Because it's easy. And that means you have 90% of your mental energy left over. Now you can finally use that energy to focus on the sound.
Well, that makes so much sense.
You can listen to the rhythm of the speaker's voice. You can hear exactly when their voice goes up and when it goes down. By forcing the vocabulary to be simple, the program is literally freeing up space in your brain so you can hear the music.
I love that concept. It really makes me think of learning a new physical skill, like juggling.
Juggling.
Yeah. If I want to teach you how to juggle, I'm going to hand you 3 soft, lightweight beanbags. They are easy to hold. You are not worried about them.
Right. They're safe.
Exactly. Because the beanbags are simple, you can focus entirely on the rhythm of your hands. Up, down, catch, throw. You learn the movement.
Right. The simple beanbags allow you to focus on the technique.
But imagine if, for your very first lesson, I handed you 5 flaming torches and a chainsaw.
That would be terrifying.
Right. You are not going to focus on the smooth, beautiful rhythm of juggling. You're going to be in pure survival mode.
Just trying not to die.
Yes, your brain is only going to focus on not getting burned. Big academic words are the flaming torches of language learning.
Oh, that is a great way to put it.
They put the learner into a state of panic and translation. Simple words are the soft beanbags. English Spark is saying, we are only going to give you the beanbags so you can finally learn the rhythm.
That is a brilliant way to picture it. They want you completely comfortable with the rhythm before they ever introduce anything heavy or dangerous.
So for you, the listener, the big takeaway here is that you do not need to feel guilty for relying on simple words.
Absolutely not.
Simple words are actually your greatest advantage. They're the only way you have enough brain power left over to actually listen to the melody.
Exactly.
Now, if our brains are finally freed up, right, and we are ready to listen to the sound, how exactly does the program train us to do that? What are the actual exercises?
This is where we get into the specific techniques the blueprint requires. They have a set of what they call secret weapons.
Secret weapons, I love that.
These are specific actions built right into the audio that force you to engage with the sound. The first one is called a listening focus cue.
A cue, like a signal. What does that sound like?
It is very simple. The host of the program might suddenly pause and say, listen carefully before they introduce a new phrase.
Listen carefully. Why even say that? Why not just say the phrase?
Well, because the human brain gets lazy very quickly.
That's true.
When you are listening to a long conversation, you naturally start to tune out the details. You just listen for the general meaning so you can follow the story.
Right, you get comfortable.
But when the host says, listen carefully, it acts like an alarm bell. It jolts the brain awake. It is a direct command that says, stop relaxing, pay close attention to the actual physical sound that is coming next.
It is like pointing a spotlight on the melody just before it plays. It prepares the ear.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we are paying close attention. The spotlight is on. What is the next weapon?
The next one is really the core of the whole program. It is called shadowing.
Shadowing.
The host will say a phrase, and then they'll say, repeat after me. And you, the learner, have to say the phrase out loud. But shadowing is very different from just repeating words like a parrot in a classroom.
How is it different? Repeating is just repeating, isn't it?
Not quite. When you repeat a word in a normal classroom, you're usually just trying to prove to the teacher that you remember the vocabulary.
Right, just getting the letters right.
And you use your own flat voice. But shadowing is an exercise in pure mimicry. It is the ultimate pitch and stress hack. When you shadow, you are acting. You have to mimic the speaker's exact tone. You mimic their exact speed. You mimic their exact emotion.
So if the speaker says the phrase with a very high, excited voice, I cannot just say the words in my normal, boring voice. I have to match their high, excited energy.
Exactly.
And if they stretch out a word for a long time, I have to stretch it out exactly the same way.
Precisely. You are stepping into their shoes and wearing their voice.
I mean, I understand the theory, but honestly,
Yeah.
if I am sitting alone in my living room listening to an audio program,
Yeah.
and I am suddenly acting and mimicking voices out loud, I'm going to feel ridiculous.
Everyone does it first.
It feels super silly to talk to yourself in an empty room. Why can't I just listen closely and repeat the words quietly in my head? Wouldn't my brain still learn the tune?
A lot of learners try to do exactly that. They try to shadow silently in their heads because it feels safer and definitely less embarrassing.
Right. It saves you from feeling weird.
But it simply does not work. And the reason is biology. Speaking a language is not just a mental activity. It is a highly physical action.
Physical.
Yes. Your mouth, your jaw, your tongue, your lips, they are all controlled by muscles.
Oh, muscle memory.
Yes. If you have spent the last 20 or 30 years speaking your native language, your mouth muscles have developed deep, permanent habits. Your tongue is used to touching your teeth in a very specific way. Your jaw is used to opening to a very specific height.
And to make the sounds of natural English with the correct stress and rhythm, my mouth has to move in completely new ways.
Exactly. You are asking your muscles to perform a brand new dance. And you cannot train a muscle just by thinking about it.
That's a good point.
Imagine you want to get stronger at the gym. You cannot sit in a chair, look at a heavy weight, and simply think about lifting it. Your muscles will not grow.
No matter how hard you think.
Right. To build muscle, you have to physically grab the weight and do the hard work.
That makes perfect sense. So shadowing out loud is basically taking your mouth to the gym.
That is exactly what it is.
You have to physically force your tongue and lips to make those new shapes over and over until the new melody becomes a physical habit. You cannot just think your way to fluency. You have to physically build it.
And the program knows this is hard work. Which brings us to the most subtle but maybe the most brilliant weapon in their blueprint.
What is it?
They explicitly require the writers to include short pauses in the script. They build silence directly into the lessons.
Pauses. Just silence. Why is silence considered a secret weapon for learning sound?
Think about what happens when someone speaks continuously without ever taking a breath. The sounds just wash over you like a wave. The moment a word is spoken, it is gone, replaced by the next word.
All right, it just keeps moving.
But if the speaker says a key phrase with very clear pitch and stress, and then they pause for just half a second, what do you think happens in your mind?
If they pause, I guess the sound sort of hangs in the air, like an echo. I can still hear the melody of their voice ringing in my head for a split second after they stop talking.
That echo is everything. That brief moment of silence gives your brain's short-term memory the time to grab onto the sound.
Wow.
It lets the melody settle in your ear, and that mental echo is exactly what your brain uses as a model when you physically shadow the phrase out loud. If there is no pause, the information rushes by too fast, and your brain has nothing to copy.
The pause is the space where the actual learning happens. It gives your brain a second to catch the beanbag before you have to throw it back.
Exactly.
That is incredible. They are literally designing the audio to match the speed of human memory.
They really are.
Okay, so we have stripped away the textbooks. We are using simple words to save our brain power. We are actively listening for cues, and we are physically training our mouth muscles by shadowing out loud in the pauses.
Right. All of that.
All of this makes sense on a micro level, sentence by sentence. But how does this program put an entire lesson together?
This brings us to the final piece of the blueprint, and it is entirely about how they organize their material. They call it the hidden structure.
The hidden structure. That sounds a bit mysterious. What do they mean by that?
Well, the blueprint clearly states that the lessons must be about relatable, practical, daily situations. But the strict rule is about the format. Think about a typical educational lesson. It is usually very clearly divided.
Yeah, you have an introduction, then a vocabulary section, then a practice drill, and finally a summary.
And in most programs, these are clearly labeled. The teacher says, okay, let's move to the practice section.
Right. They give you a roadmap so you know exactly where you are in the lesson.
But English Spark forbids this. The source document says in capital letters, "Do not label sections explicitly."
Wait, really?
Yes. They demand that the structure must be fully blended. The entire lesson must feel like one continuous, natural conversation from start to finish, with no chapter headings and no announcements about what is happening next.
Wait, they intentionally hide the structure. Why would they make it a secret? Wouldn't giving the learner clear labels make the lesson much easier to follow? If I know we are in the summary section, my brain knows how to organize the information.
Clear labels do make it easier, yes.
Yeah.
But remember, our very first rule: we are escaping the textbook.
Right.
Real life does not have chapter headings. When you are sitting in a restaurant talking with a friend, a giant sign does not suddenly drop from the ceiling that says, "Topic change."
No, it doesn't.
Your friend does not say, "Welcome to chapter 4 of our conversation. I will now summarize my feelings about this pizza."
That is true. If my friend talked like that, I would think they were a robot. In real life, the conversation just flows from one thing to the next without any warnings.
Exactly. So how do you know when your friend is changing the topic? How do you know when they are summarizing an important point if they don't explicitly tell you?
I suppose I just know based on how they sound.
Mm-hmm.
If my friend wants to start a brand new, exciting story, their voice changes. Their pitch goes way up. They get louder.
Yes.
Like, hey, guess what happened to me today? The sound of their voice tells me a new section of the conversation is starting.
Yes, you are listening to the music of their voice to understand the structure of the conversation. And what if they want to summarize something complex to make sure you understand it?
Then they do the opposite. They slow down, their pitch drops, they hit the stress on the important words really hard, like, so the most important thing is...
You just proved exactly why the program hides the labels. Native speakers use pitch and stress to organize information. We use melody to signal paragraphs, new ideas, and summaries.
Wow.
If an audio program explicitly tells you, "Here's the summary," your brain gets lazy. You don't need to listen to the melody because the label told you what was happening.
Oh, I see. By removing the explicit labels, the English Spark program forces the learner to rely entirely on the sound. If I want to know what is going on in the lesson, I have to listen to the host's pitch and stress. I am forced to hear the natural vocal signals.
It is implicit learning. They are training your ears to recognize the structural music of English without you even realizing it.
It is like taking the training wheels off a bicycle, but doing it so smoothly, the rider doesn't even notice. You know those little wheels attached to the back of a kid's bike?
Yeah, to keep them from falling.
Right. They keep you safe, but you aren't really balancing on your own. Textbooks, chapter headings, and explicit grammar rules, those are the training wheels. They feel safe, but they keep you robotic.
That's a perfect analogy.
This program just quietly unscrews the training wheels. They let you ride smoothly into a real, practical conversation. You don't stop to say, okay, now I am entering the practice zone. You just keep pedaling, flowing with the natural conversation. And before you know it, you are balancing entirely on your own.
That is the ultimate goal of the entire blueprint, to transition you from feeling like a student who is reading a visual document to feeling like a human being who is actively participating in an auditory conversation.
This has been such a revealing deep dive into how we actually acquire language. It really turns traditional education upside down. Let's recap what we've discovered from this methodology today.
Good idea.
If you are listening to this and your goal is to master the melody of English, if you want to sound completely natural and fluent, the answer is not to buy a thicker textbook.
No, definitely not.
The answer is not to torture yourself trying to memorize massive, complicated academic words. In fact, those old habits are likely the exact things keeping your voice flat and robotic.
That is the core truth here. What you actually need is simplicity. You need a simple vocabulary that doesn't drain your brain's batteries so you have the energy to hear the music.
Right. Keep it to the beanbags.
Yes. You need natural, flowing conversations without artificial labels. You need to actively listen for the cues. And most importantly, you need the courage to sit in your room, embrace the physical effort, and loudly shadow the sounds you hear in the pauses.
The mouth gym.
The mouth gym. You have to physically train your mouth muscles to play the right tune.
I think what I love most about this entire approach is how much respect it has for the learner. It respects your time, and it heavily respects your mental energy.
It really does.
It does not try to overwhelm you with difficult jargon just to make the teacher seem smart. By keeping things simple, practical, and blended like real life, learning stops being a punishment that happens to you in a classroom. It becomes a friendly, engaging conversation that you get to be a part of.
If we pull back and look at the bigger picture, this blueprint challenges our fundamental identity as learners, and this is the thought I want to leave you with today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have spent our whole lives being told that language is an academic subject, like history or math. But if sounding like a native speaker is truly about pitch, stress, rhythm, and muscle memory, if speaking a language is actually about mastering a physical melody, then maybe we have been using the wrong label all along.
Oh, interesting.
Should we stop thinking of ourselves as language students studying in silence for a written exam, and instead, should we start thinking of ourselves as musicians rehearsing for a live performance?
You already know the lyrics.
Yeah.
Now it is time to step up to the microphone, feel the rhythm, and start singing the right tune. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep listening, keep shadowing, and we will catch you next time.